Cash is king as mobile money fees inflict pain. This is a splash you're waking up to this morning. On the front page of the Standard today, a court has given Kenyans a reprieve after it temporarily stopped the increase in mobile money transfer charges, easing the blow on customers already reeling from the harsh economic conditions, even as others sought refuge in dealing in cash to avoid multiple transaction fees. And this goes to show also where we are at as a country. Cost of loans will hit a new peak as well at 19%. Electricity is bound to rise by 15% as well. And we're just always waiting for the other shoe to drop in this country. The Treasury has given also an indication that this is all about a gloom and doom as far as the economy is concerned, and Kenyans should brace for a tough economic time this year, with recession, of course, looming. This was a projection that we had last year. We're discussing this morning a lot of issues here on Uongozi Today, with the visit of the president also in the county or the Nyanza region. Of course, counties there also will be hearing from the president. Is this a good opportunity for him to address some of the issues like the pending bills that he has inherited from the previous regime as well? We are holding court with Ambrose Weda, who is an advocate for High Court. Also, we do have with us Dr. Isaac Green Kalua, who is the party leader of Green Thinking Action Party. We have with us as well Churchill Suba, who is the executive director of Kenya National Civil Society Center. And we have with us as well Dr. Martin Olo, who's an advocate of the High Court. Let's just continue with the discussion briefly, and then we center now on matters where we are at, where Kenyans are really suffering. And this is just a bearing that we have on the front page of the Standard, indicating, we know, the cost of living that is rising exponentially and will not really go down. Where we are at, the biting drought as well. We are not finished on the other issues that we're discussing, but I want us to gravitate on that as well. But we want to hear from Churchill Suba and Dr. Martin Olo as well, so that we can actually concentrate on this, on how then we can move forward and have sort of a soft landing pad to cushion us. Dr. Martin.
Dubal, thank you for this. Since again we are talking about leadership, I want to situate this rapprochement or this what appears to be a thawing of relationships in Nyanza within a context. Earlier on we heard about the tough or the bad relationships politically that Nyanza had with the first president of this country, including some of the incidences that happened in Kisumu and so on. With the Moi regime, there was a love and hate, perhaps a divide and rule. But with Kibaki, you begin to see the nusu mukate, the issue of Honorable Raila becoming the prime minister. Then there is a bit of thawing there. Then later on, you see that when it came to an opportunity for Uhuru to have a handshake with Raila, it helps again thawing up relationships. Now, you know that when President Ruto was campaigning, and even after elections, the one thing that he was condemning was the handshake, and the one thing that he was assuring us that he will not, that he can prepare Raila for opposition, but he will not talk about handshake. The point I'm making is that there is wisdom in thinking that the relationship and the developments that you're seeing in Nyanza and people's state at where they are has come as a result of trust developing over some time. When we had elections and there was an unexpected result for people in Azimio, there are many people who thought that there should have been some levels of reactions. And I had an opportunity to speak to some fairly ordinary Kenyans from Kibera here and other places, and they told me, look here, we are not stupid. We cannot destroy what Uhuru and Raila have done. In other words, they're saying they are aware that every time there is skirmishes, it leads to some destruction. Now, why were people particularly not interested in trying to do anything else other to undermine that? Is because during the handshake period, they had seen certain developments happening even in Nyanza itself. So this was not an exclusive regime that has excluded them. So I'm going into the point of, like, the moment people see they are included in development. The moment people see they are part of a country, they have positive vibes and positive reflections of it. So what you're seeing in Nyanza over time, or rather what you're seeing in Nyanza has come over time, so that there is levels of trust and there's levels of understanding that actually we can work together even though we have different political persuasions. So Nyanza is ready for President Ruto. Indeed, President Ruto is ready to work even with Raila, because what he's saying is that, wait a minute, I don't need to keep pushing the enmity. Let me work on development. Let me work on the people. So you see Raila also saying, look, I have no problem with my leaders working with the government. Indeed, that's the right thing to do. That once there is a government in place, people need to play their part. You cannot be a governor who runs away from a president of a country where the president visits. It can't be. You can't be a member of parliament who then says you cannot respect the president, because you have a position, the president has a position, both of you have to play that role, and you can see that we are looking at it. Now, of course, what we're discussing looks like news, but this is the right thing to do. This is how countries move. You cannot be politicking. I mean, when we are saying here that Democrats and Republicans work together, even on matters that are as grave as economy or politics or disaster or emergency, we have to work together. So there's absolutely nothing wrong in what's happening in Nyanza, and there's everything right in the president looking at the country as one, but more importantly, making the country work for everybody, no matter where they are, no matter what their political persuasion is.
Right. Churchill Super, we wind up on the visit. Then we'll
yes. Winding up on the visit, you know, when you look at, you reflect on the statements that both the two leaders have been saying. The president is saying we'll serve all the regions equally. Of course, one would ask, if you want to serve all the regions equally, is the appointment of Owalo, the only one, I think, from the region to the cabinet, serving the people equally. And that's why people have come to realize that as a politician, the president, of course, is bound by certain expectations to reward the regions that voted for him more than the others. But the people of Nyanza have realized that there was a time when almost every member of parliament from the region was a minister. No development came. We had Ndoloaya, we had Loaringo, we had Onyango Midika. There was a time when, during Moi's era, when everybody, almost every senior member of parliament from the region was a minister, Dalmas and everywhere. But no development took place. I think, Raila's maturity stems from the fact that he's not insecure in any way. The last elections have demonstrated once again, for the upteenth time, that he calls the shots. Even these things that Weda is saying, that Maji Mezidi Unga, I mean, those are, political catchphrases. But the reality is that the Raila still calls the shots. And the leaderships that are in place, whether it is Professor Nyong'o, James Orengo, Gladys Wanga, even Ochila Wako in Migori, are not intellectually challenged, so that if they are seen sitting with the president, they must say yes to everything the president does. In the last 1 week, I've seen, Simbarati holding discussions with the deputy president in his Harambee Annex house. I've seen the governor for Mombasa, Abdul Masad, also meeting the president at State House. Now, this is the kind of, leadership that we want to see. I don't want to call it politics, because they are not politicking. The governor from Mombasa was discussing about digitizing the land system in the coast, so that they can also reduce some of the conflicts, potential, grabbing of land that, belongs to individuals and communities. And Simbarati the same, people are now back to the basics. People want to deliver. And they are fully aware that, the national government still retains the lion's share, more than 2/3 of the national revenue collected. And even if they wanted loans, because now counties are free to borrow, they would still need the national government as a guarantor. So harnessing and nurturing that goodwill is very, very important for them. But overall, in the last 3 days, and ending today, I've been attending, the budget hearings, the public hearings.
Indeed.
On the budget outlook paper for 2020.
The National Treasury.
National Treasury. And of course, the overarching theme that, the CSS that have been there, the PSS that have been there, I've been saying is that, the priority of the Kenya Kwanza government is to reduce the cost of living and eradicate poverty and hunger. As to whether, these approaches that, the president has taken, to make sure that he is accessible, he visits and meets different leaders, whether in the opposition or from his strongholds, is something that, maybe is meant to contribute towards that. Because if he concentrated, for example, on regions that only voted for him, there is no way you can reduce hunger and poverty in Kenya in certain pockets and you leave out the others. We want to see, a lot of that happening. Of course, interestingly, we have not, and this is something we need to point out, we have not seen the president hosting leaders from his strongholds as much as he's hosting. And of course, we of course know that, he's trying to make, inroads and so on. But the fact that those leaders have always gone there with a developmental agenda is for me very, 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 very crucial. We have seen him a lot at the coast. We are seeing him for the second time in Nyanza and so on and so forth. Of course, he was at one point in his own backyard, celebrating, the Christmas in his backyard in Uasin Gishu and so on. So this is the kind of, accessibility that Kenyans expect. And contrary to what he used to say when he was campaigning, telling the people of Mount Kenya that the president has neglected you. You remember the former member of parliament for Gatundu South, Moses Kuria, telling the president, that he's now busy dishing out, development in Coast and Nyanza regions that did not support him. I think, the president deliberately demonstrating that he can overcome the politics of yesterdays and embrace the politics of the future is something that needs to be applauded. Yes.
Well, thank you. I would like now to orient our discussion and thoughts towards now the style and leadership of President William Ruto as it is right now. Coming on the back of what we had also in Mount Kenya region, Safari Park meeting the cabinet secretaries and reading also the riot act on how they should also be meeting out some of their mandate, the strategy they should be deploying so far. Many are saying he's a hands-on president. He's hands on the deck as it is a CEO sort of style presidency that we can see here. How, compared to other regimes that we've had different, how can we describe the leadership that he's actually putting on the table right now, beginning with you, Ambassador?
Thank you so much, Deban. I think looking at President Ruto currently, looking at him when he was cabinet, when he was minister, and looking at him when he was a member of parliament, I can see he's taking an approach of running the country as a board of directors with him as the chair, not the CEO. The cabinet secretaries are like respective CEOs in various capacities, in their own capacities. But he seems to have seen that there's a level of laxity in many of these people. So he's putting them to zinc. And you see, you have to recalibrate people to work. Big blue chip companies, there's a work ethic. And he seems to be instilling work ethic. The basic work ethic here is number one, you have a plan, you have goals, you have achievables, deliverables on a daily basis, monthly basis, yearly basis. He is trying to instill discipline so that if for instance, today was a cabinet meeting, he has demonstrated that my brother-in-law and Suba Churchill would have remained outside because lateness is not part of a good, serious work ethic. Those who cannot manage time, cannot manage anything else. They trot around and around and around. The King of Kings says, a little sleep, a little slumber, just a little folding of the arms, and poverty will strike you like an abnormal. So he is trying to. He's trying to instill.
Why are you pointing at Churchill Suba?
We rebuke the spirit of regretfulness in Jesus' name, and we instill on you the prayer and decree that there will be a serious work ethic, respecting time. Now, back to us.
On a lighter note, of course.
On a lighter note. So he is trying to recalibrate their mind, put them on a work ethic, tell them this is how I will want my things run. Now, from then, he is a hands-on. He will be the type that can call an area chief the very most time. So that by the time you are going to see him, if you carry projo and panganga and propaganda, you have your panganga and propaganda here and the assist facts here. He is coming out as somebody who will consume intelligent report in such a way that is able to be in charge. Also, he is forward-looking. Forward-looking to exceed President Uhuru, President Kibaki, and to push Kenya forward. Alongside that, he is also a populist president. He is like, all these things he'll do, but in preparation for any election. You come in the morning, he's ready. So populism will be part of it, serious, good, strong work ethic, the vision for the country, and then work that goes in. And I think, to conclude, he can take risks, gambles early in the day. For instance, when he removed the subsidies, that was a gamble. That could have easily made him unpopular, but he said, no, looking at it, this is the best decision. So he can take hard decisions for the country. And a country to grow and develop, there must be hard decisions. Even at individual level, at personal level, you can do what my brother Kalua was saying about checking mistakes, checking what. But if your propensity to take up serious risks is low, then you will swim in small ponds. Otherwise, for a country to go, there are certain sacrifices we're going to make. If people like Dedan Kimathi, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, they were willing to die. Now, us, we are not even willing to sleep hungry to build this country. We are not even willing to wake up in time to talk to our fellow Kenyans. So I think we will continue praying for the president to go on in that trajectory and to build the country. One thing that he has also brought up, he seems to be at ease, contrary to the thinking that he would have been bitter. Bitter with the way, let's say, the former president, his brother, who treated him and so on and so forth. He seems to, people thought he would be bitter, he would look hard, but as we move, he seems to be, okay, God has given me this job, I want to do the job, forget about these others. I will embrace them, bring Raila, bring him on, bring Uhuru, bring Subhas Churchill, bring all, bring Megona. We are at home.
Thank you.
There's no problem.
Thank you. So punctuality, we've seen also from the cabinet secretaries, the tone on the broadside declaration has toned down a bit. Not much of pronouncement has been made. Maybe he's actually rallied them around and warned them about these declarations that are not really in sync sometime with different ministries and agencies as well. We can hear from you, Dr. Isaac Law. What have you picked out from the style of leadership that we can see currently?
You know, there is something that President Ruto has that no other president has ever gotten. He has an advantage of over 50 years that no other president has had. He has the experience of what the leadership style of the first president was, the second Moi, the third one of the President Kibaki, and the previous one of Kenyatta. So he has all the mistakes that these leaders did, and therefore he has made a choice of avoiding the mistakes that they did, and you can see what he is pushing and passionately pushing, and he has not started now. He started it in his campaigns and before, of ensuring that there is an office of opposition, because the excesses of what leaders have done in this country is what has led us into a plunge into trouble in this country. So he's avoiding these mistakes and leading out of the experience that he has had over the years. I wish our country had an opportunity of having leaders like the PSs and CSs to sign a performance contract when they are appointed of at least 2 years after you are appointed and get to deliver that which you have been appointed to do. Otherwise, you are fired. I wish there was that kind of a thing, and if there wasn't, then it is an opportunity for us to start thinking about signing a performance contract that is going to help all the leaders that are in place to ensure that there is success. So there is a lot of opportunity for us to start doing things in the best way possible, because hard work is not an excuse. In one of the things that I talked to you about, mistakes, and particularly expensive mistakes, in 1991, I visited Japan on a business trip. I was going to meet the head of the biggest departmental store in Japan, and I was late for 8 minutes. 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I appeared in a meeting, a boardroom that had 8 people, about 8 or 9 people that were expecting me to discuss the opportunity of exporting handicrafts and wares into Japan to be fitted into the departmental stores. And when I arrived, the head of the institution, the chairperson of the institution, just asked the team members from his team to just wake up and go. And he told me, you and I, good friends, but business, we can never work. And I said, what? I have come from Kenya. I am only 8 minutes late. I took a wrong turn at Osaka station, and I am here 8 minutes. He said, no, we are good friends, but business, never. Why? Because if I am late to open my departmental stores across the country by 8 minutes, I'll be sent out of business. And therefore, I think what he's trying to bring in is that responsibility. And it may look like a hands-on, but I think Kenyans need that at the moment so that they are shaped. And I want to believe that at some moment he's going to slow down a bit and let these guys know, hapa hakuna mchezo. It's like even if you have not signed a performance contract, if there was any, I hope it can be signed, that within this period you're going to do this. So people wake up knowing every day there is what you're expected to deliver, and you're not here because you're a friend of the president. You're here to deliver for the people of Kenya. And by the way, he has a good team. It took time for me to understand Rigathi, the deputy president. And he keeps repeating something that I think I want to invite Kenyans to listen to him carefully. He says that mimi nasema ukweli, and I leave it at that. Very few people in Kenya and in the world today are able to tell you the truth. At least I know I do. I say it and I go to sleep without any fear of contradiction or favor. I tell you the truth, the way things are, and whatever truth based on who you are and what yes, the green truth. Thank you. So I think we need to embrace the culture of being told things as they are. Look at the situation of Nairobi and the county management as I finish. You realize that there is a real fight between the deputy president and the county government leader in the name of Sakaja. But I call it a problem of page boys and flower girls, because the real issues are known to the president, they are known to the deputy president, and they are known to Sakaja. That, first of all, that there is a communication issue and transport challenge. You cannot just displace people all of a sudden, border borders and matatus and all that, and imagine that things are right. The real issue is to follow back and ask, where is the money for the BRT that may have been allocated by the previous government? Can we sort it out even as we deal with this? So, can you, Sakaja, jipatie biashara mahali pengine, because Kenyans really suffer. Someone cannot be dropped at Ngara and be expected to be okay, and he wants to come back to his place to do their shopping and deal with their business and go back immediately. Both of them are talking very important things, but can we get the foundation first? So when Rigathi is speaking the truth, as it were, and the reality based on what wananchi want, and when Sakaja, the reformist, who wants to make Nairobi a great city that has never been seen in the region, they are both talking the right thing. But the flower girls, the supporters and all that, and the page boys are the ones who are making noise. You know, when you're in a wedding, flower boy girls can just drop the flower, and they have businesses to carry the flower, and you can find the page boy having removed the jacket and gone jumping around and not doing. The focus should be very simple in all this. We have a problem of transport. The president is keeping quiet because I believe there must be something that he's trying to deal with on the commuter management system. So at the moment, can we get Sakaja deal with the issue of Nairobi River and be very busy in getting solutions, getting the city clean, while we are dealing with all this, because even the transport and all these are very important, while we now sort out the things that affect Mwananchi and their income and what they are supposed to manage. So I think his management style is right, and we need to embrace it. He has the advantage of the mistakes that have been done previously, which he's trying to avoid. He is trying to move in this system so that everyone is responsible and running their dockets like a corporate. But I wish there was a way that ministers and principal secretaries could sign a contract with him so that he knows what is expected and they know what is expected and deliver for the Mwananchi. Because other than that, we're just wasting time, and we will be just in a vicious circle of getting things that are not done.
In Kibaki's regime, we had the Ministry of Planning, I think, also when we had Paranya, and I think I've raised this issue before, doling out performance contracts for the ministers, and they used to sign that performance contracts. There was also the Economic Delivery Unit that used to monitor how the country is faring and how also the ministers are performing in terms of their dockets as well. Will that be the way to go with this current regime? How then do we hold them accountable? Right there to appear before cabinet, the plenary in Parliament. That is another conduit of also making sure the accountability is meted out. But what is the way to go?
Yeah, I think we started from what is the president's style, what is he trying to put in place, and what are we seeing out of it. There's something about, I like what Dr. Kalo is saying, that he has had the history of 50 years. But there's something very different about this president that is very different from the others. Kibaki was in teaching. He was an executive of KANU. He was a PS. He hung around this government for so long that when he took over the reins of government, he had it. He knew what to do. Moi was a teacher before, had different experiences. The first president had his own experiences before. But both this president and Uhuru Kenyatta arrive not exactly the same way, but let's now stick to President Ruto. He's been in politics for the better part of his life. The one thing he knows, the one thing he can tell you very well about is politics. Right from his student days, well into YK 92, and from there, member of parliament, and hanging around politics for the rest of his life. So there's something about politics, there's a nose for politics that he understands. Two, he is bringing back two things. One, during the Uhuru's time, cabinet decision-making was not there. In fact, cabinet rarely met. there is a tradition in this country, cabinet meetings, cabinet meets once every week on Thursdays. That tradition dissipated. So I believe he's trying to bring back that. And then that brings back the issue of collective board decision making. Because government in our form is run by the cabinet. Cabinet is now then the board, and the chair, or who is first among equals, is the president and his deputy. So that in the absence of the president, of course, the deputy takes charge and so on. So there's the issue of the cabinet, there's the issue of the executive decision making, and of course, there are issues of decision making. Now, one thing that this president is doing, which is different from the 10 years of Jubilee, is that he is making decisions and taking responsibility for those decisions, no matter what. And that is a gap that he realizes was a problem in the previous regime. So he is doing it and saying, look, I will make decisions. Are they all good decisions? That's something for another day, and we can work around them. But he is also charismatic. He is charming. He has a word for everybody. You should see him laughing with a Anyang' Nyong'o, and you'd think that these are buddies. But you know, he knows how to disarm at that moment. And he's disarming with that laughter and so on. Is he knowledgeable? Yes, he is. Does he read? Yes, he reads. Is he workaholic? He is workaholic. How much time does he spend on the things he likes? He spends a lot of time on the things he cares about. Now that should worry you about his cabinet and the rest of the people around him. Because he's a politician, he had to reward people for their loyalty. So, wherever Wetangula, bring me somebody. Wetangula brought somebody. You Merus, I am giving you somebody. So he has rewarded the politics that he needed to reward because these people stood for him. Now, the politician, having met the bargain that he had, has to face the challenge of the CEO, the chair of this board, and making sure that it works. That's where the truth is going to be, and that's where the challenge is going to be. Has he organized himself in a way that he can deliver? Yes. The issue of delivery is now around the office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary. So the functions of monitoring, the functions of evaluating, the functions of checking the programs of the government is sitting around that office. So yes, he has that office where President Kenyatta put it in his office in the PDU. He has put it in the cabinet sector, the Prime Cabinet Secretary, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi's office, and so on. He has reorganized his government. You can see there is a sense of order around it. He wants results. He wants things clarified. He's giving people responsibility. He's demanding of them accountability. Perfect. But again, as we've said, running a country, running politics is different from boardroom corporate governance issues. You can fire somebody easily the way Honorable Kalua was dismissed from the meeting after 8 minutes. And for the record, I think I apologized early enough to say I was running late, and Dibal acknowledged, so that you don't go away saying that I was too late. Dibal acknowledged. I told him I'm running late.
Indeed.
As the circumstances.
I got a text, 15 minutes to time.
Yes. So that's for the record. Now back to where I was saying. So yes, he'll be tough.
If we all apologize,
He's tough, and he has to show the way by leading from the front. And he is coming against a culture. This country is not known for some of the things that he's pushing, which is not necessarily a bad thing, because he has also to show that yes, you may be thinking this is right, but I think this is wrong. So there is a way he's coming, and he's coming right. The question is sustaining it, getting a few believers in it, and working to get it done. Do we have hope in him? Do we see his leadership taking us somewhere? Absolutely. Because you need a leader who comes in and says, it's not business as usual, let us try something different, which is doing. Some of the other issues we can talk about, the economics and so on, but on the corporate governance, on management issues, he's right, demanding accountability, demanding punctuality, and saying that we are here to serve, not to be served. Those are good statements. We just need to see how they turn out in reality. The challenges are in there. My good book tells me that where there are blessings, there are battles. So what he needs to now to be ready for is both the battles that he must face as he brings in this thinking, because there will be battles, there will be challenges, there will be people who will resist it, and there will be mountains to go over, just like there will be valleys and there will be darkness in it. So he has to face it, and knowing that there will be need for a lot of patience, a lot of grace for him to realize what he's up to.
But it comes with the territory of the change management, of course, resistance first of all, before now you achieve your desired results. Let's hear from Chache, then we'll look at this politics of the outsiders and just talking. But let's just listen to you first of all before I ask the next question.
You know, looking at the president and his style, you see a combination of Moi and Kibaki. A combination of Moi in the sense of, waking up very early, working till very late and so on. The only difference between, the only thing that Moi's waking up early was not helpful. It's because he used to wake up early just to manage politics, to call village elders, to gather intelligence. And the development, his waking up early was not helpful to the country because the economy did not perform. The economy got run down. There was widespread corruption. And so it was about, sustaining power. Ruto comes in at a time when he knows that despite the challenges that his predecessors have had, including what they keep on harping on, Gachagua is quite fond of that, of when Uhuru would start his day and so on and so forth. He's waking up to see that he delivers, because if he doesn't, Uhuru, there is a level of achievement that Uhuru's presidency for the last 10 years has brought this country to. There are things you can see. Politics about optics. If Kibaki is credited with the Thika Super Highway, Uhuru has more of that, including the latest. And if you ask me, I think some of the tiff about relocating public service vehicles from the city center, I think it's even about where are they being relocated to. Is it the project that Uhuru started before the new regime comes up with their own and so on? So that could be part of the politics around it. Because if they were taken to the Green Park, which coincidentally is named in honor of my friend's party, people would say, but that's Uhuru's project. So Uhuru would still take the credit in retirement. So I think Gachagua's strategy is to tactfully delay that so that they come up with more of such, bus parks, so that when the relocation is done, Uhuru takes his credit in retirement and they also take theirs. I have said that I've had the occasion to attend these public sector hearings by the Treasury. And one thing that struck me is the way in the short period of time that, the CSS, the newly appointed CSS and PSS have been in office, they appear to know their stuff. You look at them and the way they handle the public and so on. I was particularly impressed yesterday by the performance by the new PSS. You would think they are new. There are people who have commented that, the president appointed greenhorns so that he can be in control. But they are learning pretty fast. If you look at the developments at the Fairmont meeting, that for the first time looked like an NGO retreat, complete with briefcases. I saw the president, the deputy president, and the chief cabinet secretary carrying, bags that only NGO actors like us are used to carrying. And I said, is this is a civil society meeting, you know? That approach, very, very, very professional, very technical. If you look at the reassignment of duties to, the chief cabinet secretary, and one of them is dealing with monitoring and evaluation, the kind of matrices that, new people in the civil society are used to. And I said, okay, so despite government's traditional and historical hatred for the civil society, they are learning a lot from the sector. And of course, we know that, there is a section of the civil society that, worked very, very closely with the president and his team during the campaigns. In fact, some of the things that I was seeing him doing, charters with counties, charters with different segments of society, with the women. Now, those are civil society ideas. So he has learned to embrace the new, and of course, very careful to avoid anything that can make him look like his immediate predecessor. In Things Fall Apart, there is a character called Okonkwo. And Okonkwo historically said to have been a son of a very lazy man, Unoka. And so Okonkwo acted out of character for fear of being seen to be like his father. So I want to believe that President William Samoei Ruto is not doing these things purely because he does not want to be seen to be like Uhuru Kenyatta. Because the more he would act like that, the more he would look like him. But he's doing it out of his own conviction, out of his own style of management, and out of the realization that, leadership has become increasingly technical. He has a team that, from my own experiences at the KICC, in the public budget hearings, seem to know what they are doing. They are learning very fast. A lot of stuff they are reporting are things that happened under the previous regime, but they are reporting them as if they were their own. You can see they have already embraced them. It is government exists in perpetuity and so on and so forth. And so we would want to see that the president's working till late, that the president's waking up early bears fruit for Kenyans, so that it does not become like those presidents that have woken up early just to collect intelligence for purposes of politics.
Indeed.
Yes.
Thank you. So if we may, talking of Mwai Kibaki and Moi as well, and their philosophies, and he's trying to get, a mesh of the two, we can talk about the silent diplomacy that Kibaki, was known of, that he was actually silent, but you could feel the effect of his action. He was a doer, he was a performer. And we have the philosophy of Moi, as you say, he was an early riser. It's like maybe, you're on the wheel, you're pushing the politics of the day, but the development also is suffering. But people will say even during the regime of Moi, we had corruption, yes, but at least pesa ilikuwa mfukoni. I don't know if you experienced the pesa mfukoni with, at least, by the way, during that time, there was money, they will say. But looking at the current regime, people are saying also, we have a very charismatic president who seems to be also doling out a lot of promises. Will they fulfill these promises at the end of the day? Or would you go the silent way and act like Kibaki and we see the fruits of, your actions at the end of the day?
Debal, thank you. Let's get one thing very clear. My brother Suba Churchill said that President Moi used to wake up early, but that is waking up early. He used to do politics. Just politics. There was nothing in the economy. Let us get this thing clear. Let us give credit where credit is due. President Moi goes into the history of this country as a man who succeeded in national cohesion and the security of this country. Remember, it is only Kenya and Tanzania that remained without a coup. There was just a slight attempt here in Kenya, and it remained a nation that we are now enjoying today. That was because of the leadership. Other countries, Somali, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, wherever, Eritrea, all these things That was the leadership he provided. He was able to bring the Luos here, the Kisis here, people like Luo's grandfather. They're all here. And that's what brought national cohesion. And that national cohesion, Honorable Mwai Kibaki did not pay attention to it. And in just 5 years of leadership, the country almost went berserk. If it was not for our friends in America and so on and so forth, we would also be like Somali or Congo or whatever. So that has to go to the credit of President Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi, Baba wa Taifa. Number 2, President Moi laid the foundation for education. He loved education. And that foundation has Kibaki anchored on it, and Kenya has the highest number of educated people, has one of the most resilient education systems. Kenyans are out-competing nearly everybody in Africa. You go to South Africa, you'll find professional Kenyans. All this foundation was laid by President Moi. Tanzania did not get it right. And they're wobbling all over. Yet they got the independence earlier. Why? Leadership. Of who? The president. Number 3, the Kenyan economy has always been better than even Tanzania, even Uganda, even Somalia. The only one, Sudan. The only one you can count is Ethiopia. Why? Leadership. So when my brother Churchill Suba is talking, and we were young then, I'm older, slightly older than this, so I saw a bit of Moi, but Moi came into power when some of us were in class 2. I think Suba was not yet born, or if he was born, he was at home. So talking about Moi in that way is just from civil society stories and gatherings and the wars they used to have now when Moi was real Moi. That aside, the Kibaki way of doing things and the current president ways of doing things, the promises. This is a new presidency. New 90-day presidency. Even if the child was a no-mere child, where Honorable Wale worships, the child will still be kept in the house. But when a promise is made, you look at it, is it doable? Is it workable? Can it work? If he says we're going to do houses in Omabe, is it workable? Is there money for it? Money is allocated by Parliament. Are we collecting? So that is a good thing. You can see where we are going. In corporate world, in life, you want to know where are we going. When you sit with your family, you tell them, this is where we are going. This is what I promise. You do well in class, I do this. You do well in school, I take you here. You pass this, we go here. You do this. There must be vision. The King of Kings says, where there is no vision, the people perish or they lose restraint. You must tell people, this is what I want to do. This is where I want to go. So people who are saying too many promises, it is only that they don't understand. Kibaki, on the other hand, sat lame duck inside. He was working, yes, but he was not working as a CEO of Safaricom. He was working as a politician. And a politician in Kenya, where politics is every day, your newspapers are about politics, TV are about everything about politics, you must talk to the people. The Bible, if you go to your house and you have children and you're always like, they know you're working, they know you're working. No, they know they will be food. You're always praying, but they don't even hear the prayers. There's a time they say, God is always in his room. He's always in his room. They will rebel. You have to come out and say, today, discipline X. We have to plant 100 trees because General Kalua said so, and these are the signals. I come back home, if we are not planted, Kitauman. That is how. So Kibaki did well, but he kept so quiet that by the time he woke up, you were cutting each other with pangas. And the good economic process done was almost taken away. So we want a president who does and talks. Here in Kenya, you talk, you do, you talk, you do, we dance, we celebrate, we criticize you, we gossip about you. That is the joy of being a Kenyan.
All right. Let me hear from Dr. Nyanza Kalua. Because, of course, even from the previous regime, where he was a deputy president, we saw him making promises. one of which, of course, is well known with the stadium premises. Within 6 months, we'll have delivered this number of stadiums as well. And people say, how plausible is that? How achievable is that with that particular short period of time, which never came to be born?
The biggest secret in leadership is hidden in doing small things repeatedly and doing them right. A message that is sent out of just a small act that you do refers the country into a very major approach on how to do things. I cannot thank my colleague enough for talking about President Moi, the late president. I was appalled by seeing or hearing one of the preachers just this weekend saying that what the president did in supporting the church community, it brought a lot of unity in churches. The AIC, you remember, it was just every news that you would hear about the president on Monday morning or Sunday evening is President Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi today visited this church and worshipped with the community of that. Just that small act meant a lot. And I'm seeing a repeat of the same with the current president. He's in this church today, he's in another church tomorrow. I have been in a service where he has taken over the leadership of the service and he's leading in hymns. He actually led us in 4 consecutive hymns, and he was the conductor of those small things. First of all, the fact of glorifying God, that as a president, you are saying that God is above me and he is above all of us, and bringing him at the center and calling for his presence takes preeminence, and therefore the country will go in a different direction. I think that's the first thing that I'm seeing with what the president is doing. Just being found in church, singing, and you'll find that has got a ripple effect. You find that governors want to report when they meet the president, oh, I was in church today, I worship with this community. Mama Rachel is there guiding and being seen as an icon of glorifying God wherever she is. I think those small things matter a lot, and we need to embrace them. And it must not just be in church. We also need to see more leaders going to where they believe in and what they believe in, so that there is value in you that people can attach, not just the typical politician that we all know about. Deputy President Rigathi, the wife is a pastor. Those small things, they matter a lot. And I don't know why I'm obsessed today about Rigathi, but I think it's something that we need to think about. You know, there are small acts that we do that matter a lot. I met Vice President, Deputy President, in a church service. The president caught me, and we entered into a discussion. And typical of politicians, just behind, and that specific session, the leader started, huyu ameanza kukuja sana, let us slow him down. I was getting to know these details just the other day. Let us slow him down. He's getting too close to the president. This should not be allowed. Do you know, surprisingly, that is a normal discussion that I should never have known or even had. But when we are seeing off the deputy president, as he gets on the foot of his plane, he tells me, na wewe, nimesikia wewe, hii maneno ambayo umesema huko si ya ukweli na ipasi kufanywa. I say, what? And that brings out the truth that he says that mimi ninaongea ukweli. If this country forms that direction of speaking the truth and helping each other to do what is right, I think we will change completely. We have such a great nation. This week alone, I am glad that we managed to do the first ever motorcycles with all 14 local parts in Kenya, made in Kenya, as per the regulations of the motorcycles, leading to 5,000 employed people, permanent jobs within 4 months if every assembler is going to take on. I think this is what the president is pushing for. Small acts, saying that let's pay our taxes. Let's have the community policing at the county level be in place so that people can be able to do things the way they need to do. Let's embrace it. Leadership is about those small things that we do them, not just once, but doing them consistently is what is going to change this nation. We have such a great nation that can shake the world out of what we are doing because of the preparation also, as Weda said earlier, about what the former leaders have done. I would not blame any of the leaders. I would learn from what they have done. In President Moi's time, the leadership that was done by Kalenjin leaders, in as far as education is concerned, has led the greatest engineers in this country today come from the Kalenjin community. The greatest. Talk about issues of electronics, talk about engineering, talk about that some communities that were thought that were best at that have now been overtaken because of what was done. These are the small things that we need to embrace on a daily basis so that we can make this country a great institution.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. We take a short break right now. They always say it is a cinch by cinch. Little by little, everything becomes a cinch. Yard by yard, life is hard, and this is what Dr. Kalua is saying. Of course, the little things that really matter, right? So just take that step in a little way so that you may achieve, of course, the big desire and the big project that you've been desiring, that particular big success that you're looking for in a particular area. It always starts with one step moving forward. The president has been described a hardworking man, wakes up early in the morning, he's pious, and he books no nonsense. We have to perform, we have to be a working nation. We circle back, but in light of all these attributes that he has and a contracting economy where there is no money, when will he get to realize his dreams and promises for Kenyans at the end of the day? We discussed this on the other side.